You asked for it and I'm delivering. Today is all about the chalk paint. So you've heard about chalk paint, but really don't know a whole lot about it. This was the feedback that I got in a poll that I did in the community tab, as well as some comments in one of my videos. So today I wanted to make a video that was specifically about different brands of chalk paints and what chalk paint really is. Now the brands that I chose to use today are pretty readily available, and some are brands that I've used. There is one brand that doesn't seem to be as available anymore, but it is one that you'll see a lot of the DIYers using. So I wanted to include that in this review as well. And during the process, I'm also going to give you some fun facts that you may or may not already know about chalk paint. So without any further ado, let's get started. So now we're gonna go ahead and get started with the first one. All but one of these is actually brand new, so you'll be able to see that. And I'm just going to be using a little chip brush. They do sell the chalk paint brushes, but honestly, they're very expensive. And for this testing, what I wanted to do is make sure that I had the same paintbrush for each of the paints. And I just wanted to open them at the same time because that's less air that's gotten in there and potentially change the consistency. So that's why I really wanted to make sure that all of these bottles were new. So this one I've never used before, and it is really thick, as you can see here. Let me bring this up a little bit more. It's like a thick pudding almost, but I think I like it. I mean, if you do this, look at that. It actually keeps its shape. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's very creamy. So I'm just gonna set that back there, and I'm gonna go ahead and paint this here, just one coat. And it does seem like a little goes a long way, which is great. Actually, I think in most cases for these chalk paints, a little really does go a long way. So now we're gonna move on to number 2. And just a fun fact while I'm opening this one, I don't know if you were aware of this, but it certainly was news to me. Chalk paint was actually created in 1990 by Annie Sloan. She was Annie Sloan was the original creator of chalk paint and the only official chalk paint by registered trademark. So actually, when you're purchasing all of these chalk paints, they're chalk-like paints. They're not really chalk paint. I thought that was pretty interesting. And I did try to get some of this Annie Sloan paint. I'll be honest, I've been dying to get my hands on it, but you cannot order it online, which is such a bummer. They have their stockist where you can order it, or you can go to those specific stores that stock it, but they're kind of far from me. So maybe one day if I'm ever in the area, I will absolutely get myself some Annie Sloan chalk paint, because it really is supposed to be like the best of the best. I can tell you right now, this is definitely much more liquidy than the first one. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead. I don't know that I like that. I guess it depends on what I'm working with, because I have added water to my chalk paint, and that brings me to, we're gonna start painting this, and that brings me to my next fun fact. Chalk paint is water-based, so it's really easy to clean up. You can clean your hands, your paintbrushes, you know, your surface with just some mild detergent, mild soap, and that's it. And you can also add water to it if you want to make it a little bit thinner. Maybe you want to go with more of a whitewash finish. So this is a great paint to be able to use for that. In fact, chalk paint lends a very matte finish, and it allows you to get more of that vintage or sort of rustic finish, which is why you see a lot of like farmhouse style or boho even DIYers that are using it. And it's just really nice. It's just a really easy paint to work with. So next we're gonna go with number 3, and I am gonna give this another shake again, because now I just feel like maybe I didn't do such a great job shaking it up. So I am sorry if this in any way, I should say, changes the results. I'm so bummed about that, but you guys know me. I try really hard to get it right, but perfection is overrated. I just really wanted to give you some helpful information that will serve you good when you're going to purchase your chalk paint. Okay, so I already don't like the covering of this because it makes it so hard to open. All right, so that's something I did not like because that just makes it a little messier at the beginning, right? But again, it is water-based and it's easy to clean, so no biggie. All right, so one of the other things that is great about the chalk paint is there really is no preparation needed. So you don't have to prime it, you don't have to sand. You can if you want. It just depends on the surface that you're working with, I suppose, and the look that you're going for. But you can literally use chalk paint to paint over existing paint. Okay, so this one, the consistency, I wish I could stick my brush in there. I'm actually gonna pour it out a bit, is definitely kind of thick like the first one. You can see there, it sort of keeps its shape. So this is a nice thick one. And I definitely overdid it, but I can put it back in the container, so no problem. I think because I'm using a chip brush, they're all likely going to require a second coat, just because you can see like the lines. But again, if you're going for like a rustic, a more vintage look, then that's perfect. In fact, I'm going to show you a very, very easy project that I did. I'll show you the before and after so you can see what a difference a little bit of chalk paint can make. So be sure to stick around to the end. Now we're gonna go with this one over here. So another fun thing is that because we have all of these different types of chalk paints, some of them actually offer tinting. And I'm gonna go into that too as soon as we reveal at the end which one is which. Okay, so this is the one that I used before. So if you've been watching my videos recently, you know which one this is already. This one's also pretty thick in consistency, but I think it's a little bit more liquidy than number 3. So number 1 was definitely the thickest so far, then number 3, and now number 4. So I don't know, I actually might, I might have to, now that I have it, experiment more with number 1, because I do like that it's a little thicker, since again, you can always add water to it to make it thinner. All right, so I wanted to give you a glimpse of these other ones. So here's number 1, which definitely looks a lot brighter than number 2. Number 2 would definitely need, for projects that I would do, would definitely need a second coat. Number 3 seems brighter, so but I still think I would need a second coat on that. And then I'm still waiting for number 4 to dry off a little bit. But with number 1 pretty much being dry at this point, I think that that's kind of the better one as far as the consistency and how many coats you might need to do in order to get like a more solid finish. So coming back over to number 5 here, I'm just gonna go ahead and pop this open. And there are many other tools you can use for this. Please don't follow by example in this case. You know, don't go using your Cricut tools for this, but I do. It hasn't ruined them yet, or you know, my little spatula. It's the only one that I use for this kind of thing, but I don't want you ruining your tools. So at first glance, it's definitely more watered down. Oh, but it's thicker than number 2. That's interesting. It kind of keeps a shape like when it, let me bring it closer here, like when you dip it and then it pours out, but then it sort of fades away very slowly. All right, while those are drying, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you about the brands that I purchased, and I also wanted to share another fun fact. So if you love Joanna Gaines and Magnolia, you can definitely check out her store, and I looked at it. It looks like most of the paints do ship, so you can order them online, which I thought was really fantastic, and she's got some beautiful colors on there. Now, the brands that I decided to go with for today, Art Minds, Folkart, Waverly, Rust-Oleum, and Behr. I decided to go with these because for the most part, they were really easy to locate in the stores. Now, the reason I say for the most part is because Waverly, unfortunately, it's been something that's not in Walmart as often now. A lot of people are telling me they can no longer find it in their Walmart, and if you look online, maybe on Amazon, it's really expensive. Waverly is a good chalk paint if you can find it, but I hope today shows you that there are definitely other options out there as well. Art Minds I decided to try because I had tried their colored ones before, And so I kind of was seeing it everywhere. Like I saw it at Michael's and Joann's, so I thought, why not let me give it a try and see. So I think that one's going to be pretty available as well. Folkart, you can definitely find those at your local Joann or Michael's, and likely any of your paint supply stores as well. I decided to also choose Rust-Oleum because it is a very well-known brand. It's something that you can get at your local hardware store. I thought, why not? I wanted to see how it stood up against some of the other competitors. And then I chose the Behr because Behr was one of my favorites as well before. It's probably, actually it is the first chalk paint that I ever tried. One of the projects that I did when we were repainting our home, the fans in the room were very dark. I didn't like it. I felt like it just made it look very antiquated. So I went over to Home Depot, I bought the Behr chalk paint, and I removed the blades, painted them. I kind of gave them like a whitewash finish, so you can see like the little brush marks, but I intentionally did that because I wanted it to look more rusted. But at the end, it is amazing because it went from this low ceiling kind of feel, very small space, to just opening it up because the fan wasn't actually like the focal point anymore. So you can really use this not just on furniture, you can use it on your fans or different areas in your house. Really experiment with it. What I really liked about the Behr chalk paint is that you can add tint to it, which means they sell it in white, but if you want a nice blue color, a pink, a purple, or any color that you can imagine, they will create it for you there. And I think that's really awesome because sometimes you just can't find the color that you're looking for, or maybe you're combining colors at home, but then you never really get that same color match again. So the fact that you can go in and get this color made for you and know that every time you use it, it's going to be exactly the same, that's just amazing. So that was one of the pluses there. Now, if you're not a Home Depot fan, another one that you can also add tint to is Valspar. So if you like going to Lowe's, a lot of people prefer Lowe's over Home Depot. Valspar is their brand, if I'm not mistaken, and it also offers you the opportunity to tint it as well. And going back to preparation, one of the reasons that a lot of DIYers like myself use chalk paint is because it is so easy to use. You can paint almost any surface, on metal. I've painted on glass, wood, just about any surface without having to prepare it. And what I mean by preparing is sanding it down or stripping it down or priming. Those are things that add additional cost to your project, additional time. It just isn't necessary. So this is a really nice option. If you want to add an extra layer of protection, you can do that because most of these brands actually come with their own wax. So you can add that layer on top just to protect it. For instance, when I did my fans, I did add the wax finish because I wanted to make it easier to clean. Okay, so I think our samples are dry, so let's do our second coats. Okay, so I really hope that you can see these. This is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is definitely looking white. This one looks pretty white, and this one. So I'm not sure which one you pick. I'm gonna hold it up so you can see a little better. But this is how the different whites came out. Actually, I think that the middle one might be, so number 3 might be the brightest white. Since I'm using a ring light, I just want to kind of go across like this to make sure that you're seeing all of them. Now for the finishing touch, I have to say, I can even feel the difference. So if I'm looking at number 1, which was actually the thickest one, I can feel the brush strokes, which is kind of nice. It actually almost feels like a faux wood. And then if I feel from the original surface over to the painted surface, it almost feels like a wallpaper. That's how kind of thick it was, and that was 2 layers. I like this one a lot. I'm really impressed with this one. Love the coverage, love the feel. It still feels smooth even though I can feel the different textures. Now this one, I'm not a fan of the color. If I'm going to use a white color, I like to have that really bright, clean, crisp color. But if you do like this color, it is also relatively smooth to the touch. You can feel the texture. It's a little bit smoother. It's not as much as number 1 here, and it's not as thick. So I can feel it. It's like a light wallpaper as well, with the 2 coats. Then we've got this one, number 3. This one, you can really also feel the texture. I think, well, they're probably about the same. I dare say they're about the same as far as texture is concerned. Remember, I used a chip brush, so I have the little brush marks in here, and they also feel smooth, so I wouldn't even add a wax layer to this. I think number 1 is a little bit thicker, but this is a really nice finish, and I also like that it's a nice crisp white color. Then we move over to this one over here. You can feel the texture, also like a thinner wallpaper, so this one's definitely a little bit thinner, but it's got a nice finish. And then this last one here, this one's a little bit different. So this one is the one that when we opened the can, you could see it take shape, and then it just kind of fell in and softly like kind of smoothened out. So that's what was happening here too. As it dried, I feel like you can still feel the texture, but it's not as prominent. It's a little bit smoother, almost like if you had sanded it down just a little bit so it wasn't so rigid. Maybe easier to clean, but I'm not liking the fact that this one isn't as bright. But again, I've used this before. It looks very white, but if you're looking for stark white, then I think 3 and 1 are the ones to go. But comment below, because I may be seeing these completely different than you are. It's really all very subjective, so I'm interested to see what you think about these colors. So let's go ahead and start by finding out what our number 1. So remember, number 1 to me was like the brightest white. I was pretty surprised at this particular brand. I've only used it once, and it was on, like, I got it for 99 cents, just a small little bottle of it, and I used it in my fall decor video. It was just very different in texture, even that one. So again, you're gonna see a couple videos that talk about the texture. In fact, I might just throw in a snip here. Not every color is the same texture. So this is our brightest white, the thickest one, the creamiest one, and it was with Art Minds. I'm really, really impressed with this one. I'll list all of the pricing down below so you can see what the price is for all of them. I'm gonna actually break it down to the ounces, because some of these, this is the largest that you can get, while others you can get a quart. So then I'm gonna go ahead and go to number 2. So this one here is by Rust-Oleum. Okay, and this is, let me actually give you the color. So for Art Minds, it's simply white. And then for Rust-Oleum, it's linen white. So that could also be the difference, but I didn't see another white color for Rust-Oleum. Maybe they just didn't have it in my store. So for number 3, this is a brand that a lot of DIYers use. You've seen it. Let me see if I can see the color. So the color for this one is White Adirondack, and it's by Folkart Home Decor. That's number 3, if you liked number 3. Here is number 4, and this one is the one that you've all heard of before, I have no doubt. That is Waverly. So for the Waverly color, it's just white. The unfortunate thing about Waverly is I'm hearing more and more often that Waverly is no longer available in a lot of Walmarts. I don't know if they're going to be doing away with Waverly, or this is just a matter of, you know, this whole supply situation that they're not able to get it in the stores. Waverly is a good product and isn't quite as thick as the other two, but I wouldn't just brush it aside. If you find Waverly, this is a wonderful chalk-free to use, or chalk-like paint. All right, so the last one, if you paid attention at the beginning and know the brands that we're working with, you already know which one this is. All right, so this last one is by Bear. Okay, and this one is just called White Base. This is the first chalk paint or chalk-like paint that I ever used. It is still one of my favorites, even though when I did the comparison here, it is not by far when it comes to like the color and everything like that. But I have to say, this is gonna fall in second simply because of the fact that it can be tinted. I really hope that you like this video. I am dying to know which chalk paint you are going to pick up for your next project. Please make sure to comment in the comment section below. And if you have any questions, throw those in there too. I'm Ellie Lee with Ellie Lee Designs, and until the next one, bye.